Well, it's good to be with you again. We've got Heidi Hollis on with us, and we're going to have a very good guest and Harvey Neiman on. We're going to talk about some stuff that's happening in our world, Heidi. Basically, they're closing all the retail stores. Well, they're closing all the retail stores, and everybody's gone to some little weirdy little computerized Alexa, get me the hamburger people. It just
yeah, sad.
Get into that in a minute. Well, it is sad, and it's weird. It's weird. I feel like a dinosaur that's still walking the earth. I really do. And I mean, I'm not kidding you. But anyway, of course, there's been a lot of news this week, and the big story of the week was the players sitting or kneeling during the national anthem. And, well, you know, of course, that's been talked to death, but I'm really against that. But I really don't see anything wrong with them locking arms. If they want to show they're united, they can lock arms and dance around the stadium if they want to. I don't care. I don't.
I mean, it could be worse. They could be turning their backs, but they're not. They're just kind of, saying, making a statement.
Well, I'm not really in favor of the statement because it's really coming from a bunch of thugs that are basically, they'd be in street gangs if they weren't playing football for the most part.
Oh, why do you say that? That's not true.
Well, yeah, Ezekiel Elliott here in town, he's nothing but a street thug. He beats women up.
Well, that's just, that's him. That's not all of them. My goodness.
Well, not everyone, but a significant number are. Cowboys have got him on suspension about every 3 weeks. Somebody's doing something to get.
Well, who knows how much CTE issues they have? I mean, look at the guy
There is that.
That's
a legit issue. That's not a joke issue, but.
No.
But also, but the thing is, what it really is they're a bunch of millionaires and they're acting like, I mean, I'm not in favor of racism. I've told you before, I've always been in favor of racial equality. But I mean, I think in truth, there's a lot less racism now than when I was a kid.
It seems like it's sparked up, though. Now, I think people are just kind of shocked. We just voted in the first African-American president, and then, boom, it's like a 360 and so much static. It's scary to see.
But, honey, there's not really any job discrimination against black people or housing discrimination against them that I know of.
Yeah, there is. Oh, my goodness. I've seen it personally. It's not cool.
Well, I thought maybe I'm living in a bubble, I guess. I probably am.
Oh, but gosh, come to the Midwest.
But I thought that was, over the dam,
No, I wish. Goodness, I've been in the car with a big, intimidating-looking Puerto Rican guy. I could not stand being in the car with him. We kept being pulled over. It was ridiculous. Yeah. It's the most gentle soul, 6'6", over 300 pounds. This is a big-looking, intimidating guy, and he was so used to it, and he was just like, "I understand, officer." He would just raise his hands and get out, and I'm like, "Wow, I was not used to that." It was really scary.
Oh, the profiling kind of thing you might call it.
Oh my gosh! I went to Holy Hill with him. They would not allow us to go up to Holy Hill in Wisconsin, where miracles happen. That's the place I told you about, where people go and they get healed and they put their wheelchairs and stuff.
The
cops stopped us from going, and the church was disgusted.
Why though? What would be the issue?
Do you know what the police officer said? He said, "There's been a lot of graffiti and stuff going on up here." We're like, "And your point is?" And he's like, "You know what? Turn around and go." It was like,
really?
We're just like, he's like, "Give me your IDs." And he writes it down. And he's like, "And I'm escorting you out of here." We're like, why? It was that bad. I called.
Down. That's pretty low down. That really is.
That's just the beginning. It's just so much. Terrible.
Well,
terrible
like I
stuff.
say, I probably live in a bubble anyway. I guess I think all that stuff's over the hill, but I guess not.
Yeah.
Well, who knows? But anyway, I'm sure this dust up will die over. But the Trump and the North Korea thing is not going to die over. Now they're saying that Little Stumpy is saying that Trump is declaring war on Korea and all this stuff. And, of course, what this idiot doesn't realize, if Trump declared war in Korea, it would it would be like you think it would. But I don't know. I think we need to do what I said last week, is just carpet bomb the whole place. and all these dog-eating little monsters will be pushing up daisies, and that'll be it. Really, and that's really my choice. But anyway.
Glad you're not. Well, there is an opening at the White House. Maybe you could advise him, but I don't know.
I think I'd fit in fine.
I bet you would. There's a lot of thugs there working.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, no, they're mostly little wimpy guys. But, well, I don't know. Trump could do anything and they'd be against it. It really doesn't matter. I mean, he could say black and they'd say white. If he said white, he'd say black, or, he could.
Who knows?
Whatever. Now, we have a nice little story. Tonight. Though.
Cool.
There's miraculous rose petals associated with St. Teresa. Teresa of Lisieux, she was a little flower anyway. Turns out Rhonda Wise of Canton, Ohio was alive, and she's a very humble woman surrounded by miracles. There's so many miracles that people would flock to her house and ask for her prayers. In 1939, Rhonda was healed miraculously from an abdomen opening that could not be closed after multiple surgeries, after being opened to remove a 39-pound tumor, which was pretty weird. And she was later healed from a severe foot injury. At any rate, what happened was, Rose Wise and Mother Angelica were to some extent connected. She's a big Catholic figure. Both those women were from Canton, Ohio. Mother Angelica was actually healed of a debilitating stomach problem. It was at the shrine that this woman, who's the writer, saw a miraculous rose petal that fell from heaven when St. Teresa appeared to Rhoda. I mean, and they had this.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is, and it shows a depiction of Jesus on both sides of the rose petal.
Oh, wow. Well, that's cool. Has it been verified to be legit?
No, I'm sorry, St. Teresa on the rose petal. Yes, it's been verified to be legitimate, yes.
Wow. Oh, that's pretty cool. I love those kinds of stories.
Well, this isn't the first time that's happened, though. See, that's the thing. There's been other associations at Britannia. They had similar things. But these little issues like we dealt in that show a couple weeks ago are a lot more common than you might think. You might think it happened every century or something. It does not.
Right.
And I just thought that was a nice little miracle.
No, that's cool. I love that kind of stuff. It's fascinating. Well, we need more miracles in the world. Big time. Well,
it does kind of ground you, because when you realize these things exist, it makes, the little anthem thing, yeah, little minor league aggravations seem kind of, neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that war is a comforting feature any time, but still, the daily humdrum and, bickering is pretty neither here nor there compared to this. But these things do exist. They exist every day. Like I said, somebody should write a book about these little miracles that happen upon entering the Catholic Church and stuff, because I know it would be an immediate seller. But we'll worry about that sooner or later. But we've got a good guest coming on.
Oh, yeah.
No, it is a weird life. It really is. I'm glad there's more than this, because this is starting to get a little weak around the edges here. We'll be right back after the break. We'll be right back, Noel. Be back with you. We've got an excellent guest. Harvey Neiman is President, Chief Investment Officer of Neiman Funds Management. He's been on CNBC, Fox News, has been interviewed by the Wall Street Journal, Barron's, and many other publications. We're going to talk about changing patterns in our society, and which would obviously touch on investments and what have you. And Heidi's with us. She's a wealthy little Chicago girl.
Surviving.
Well, I'd have more money. Harvey, but my daughter owes me $200,000.
Somehow I imagine that Heidi is not a little girl. I don't know why. I'm just imagining she may be wealthy, but I'm imagining she's not a little girl.
Right, but I'm not his kid. But we just sound like it. No, it's another crooked relative of his, but I'm not related to
I actually moved to
Kevin.
Boston with my $200,000, so that's
Wow, that's pretty nice and generous of you.
well, it's nice that she's my daughter, or else she might have had visits from half a dozen people. But
so you got a pretty cool resume there, Harvey. And what a rough time to be named Harvey, though. My goodness.
Every time somebody yells the word hurricane, I turn around and say, "You talking to me?" And so it does happen.
I always thought Hurricane Heidi would sound cool, but Harvey took it. The other H word name.
Right. And thank goodness I'm not named Irma, and not because of the reason that it might sound like that. It's just Irma is just going to be everybody's beloved dear aunt or cousin or whatever. I just wouldn't fit. Kevin, can I have permission? Can I have permission to comment on the earlier topic? I was listening as we talked about the athletes that were. Sure. Feel free so I'd like to give what I believe to your listeners and yourselves a fresh perspective that occurs to me. And I preface it by saying I've been a guest on a series of radio shows over the last few months. And I want to preface by saying I do not take sides on the either heavy conservative, heavy liberal. I'm a very middle of the road conservative in many ways, but I'm not taking a position on one side of the aisle or another. And I try to see the open-minded two sides of every story. And it occurs to me that when I was a youngster in college, I recall the burning of the flag issues, and that tore, especially Vietnam was going on at the same time, and it really tore the country apart at that time.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want us to relive that by any means, and I think we as a country are more supportive across the board of our military and those who are in harm's way defending our country. So that's not an issue, and we're all behind that. What occurred to me is if a full cross-section of famous people, athletes in more than one sport, are objecting and using the Star-Spangled Banner, that I would like to offer, I think, across the board, they're criticizing the President of our United States in their action, and they are choosing a manner that appears like they're criticizing the flag, and I don't believe they're criticizing our flag. But they are using the Star-Spangled Banner to speak out. And if there were a way, and I'm being open-minded and hopeful, if there were a better way for athletes or anybody else. I mean, look at the Academy Awards 2, 3, and 4, and 5 years ago, where they used the platform, apartheid or gender-based bigotry or whatever. Famous people will use a platform. And I would rather they say, if they're upset with how the president is acting, and there is good grounds for a good cross-section of this country to be upset how the president is acting, don't tie it to a criticism of the flag, which you support and you honor, and you those who defend us. And our military is very high. I go to football games, but NFL football games, and when there's a salute to the Flag Day or a flyby of the military, the cheers abound from the fans and the athletes. So that's just my perspective. I don't think, and they haven't expressed it, we're not really criticizing the flag, so then don't use a flag salute or a flag Star-Spangled Banner salute to criticize the president. Find another way if that's what makes you unhappy. And you do have the constitutional right to criticize the president.
That's
my...
And
that's,
good Lord, everybody's criticizing Trump every 5 seconds.
But he's a big boy. He can handle it. He dishes it out pretty generously. So why does everybody have to jump to his defense like that? I didn't hear that.
Well, it really isn't the Trump thing. It's like he's saying it's the Star-Spangled Banner and the anthem of what that represents. Yeah. Trump is just a side player in the whole thing.
Right. And so I hope you see my point and share the perspective. And Kevin, by no means do I require you to agree with me. I'm just seeing
no, it makes sense.
A better way to go about it. And maybe all the athletes are not the smartest people in the world, and they,
no, they're not, and they are some of the scummiest. They are some of the scummiest. At least the Dallas Cowboys are. I mean, there's some low down scumbag.
I won't participate in that discussion, but I did want to give my
believe me, I have it on good authority. But, well, no, that's fine. That's fine. And I really agree with you. I think they're picking the wrong avenue to express their... But then, see, they don't have very many avenues. And that's the only thing that, their little visibility is right there with the...
Right.
The daily games. And but it is a little ironic that some of these characters are making... most of them are making millions of dollars. The average Joe is just barely able to get along. And they're complaining about how ill-used and discriminated against they are. That's a little bit striking, really.
Right. But I am here to answer your questions about the changes in our retailing.
Let's go there. Yes, let's begin.
But thank you for the few minutes for me to express a perspective.
No problem at all. No problem at all. But see, what got me, this is the local pennies. I mean, I've got enough clothes to last for another lifetime. But what I'm saying is when I did shop a lot, I'd shop at Penny's or Sears for little small items.
Sure.
And the idea, of course, Sears goes all the way back to, my childhood. Everybody shopped at Sears. It's the only store available in a little small town we were in.
You can go back to about the 1870s, 1890s with Sears Roebuck. Yes, you can go back a long way.
That's about when I grew up.
You were already in middle school by then. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I guess what I can't understand is, now I know the lady that's your publicist, she said that she's a member of Amazon Prime, and they pay $100 a year to get that Prime membership, and they get unlimited deliveries. I don't understand the economics of that. Well, I said, what's the smallest thing you got from these guys? They're like a $100, $200 minimum. She said, no. She's ordered a $3 thing of shampoo from Amazon. And I was thinking, how in the heck could that possibly, by any stretch of the imagination, be viable financially to deliver?
There's a lot of products on the truck, and so it's all about distribution and routing.
Okay.
So see that one product is probably to a household. For example, if you're referring to Antoinette, very fine lady, and she may get 3 deliveries a week. I know people get deliveries every day. I recently remodeled a house, and so I have Amazon Prime, and so instead of going through my contractor, I can get some of the fans for the ceilings or different light fixtures. You can order it all through Amazon, and therefore the driver starts to know you, knows the neighborhood, knows when to deliver it. And the model for that, believe it or not, is FedEx from several years ago, when FedEx figured out where to have hubs around the country to cut the transportation cost and compete really with the post office and United Parcel Service. So there are predecessors to computerized programs for delivery that does make it economical. But I would say Amazon is not necessarily the most profitable of all the people. They have a huge stock price, but you are right that they are not necessarily out of the woods in terms of the strongest profitability on the planet. They still have to work at it. You're right on that point.
Well, it just seemed impractical anyway on the whole of it. I mean, even if I send a little small package, it's going to be $5 parcel post or something, even just a small little thing. And I was thinking, my goodness. And also, I guess what I don't understand, maybe Heidi, you could throw in here too, is I thought shopping was to, kind of an experience you do to look for what you like and not just do it on a computer.
Well, they make it so darn easy now, though. I have a friend that's a shopaholic, and she gets her shoes, her clothes, everything through the mail. And she's like, oh, these don't fit, free returnable package. I'm like, what? And, just throws it in the mailbox. And me, I'm terrible about going to the post office. I don't like going to the post office. But you could just have your mailman pick it up in your place. It's so convenient. And but you know what? I think the shopping experience, it gets people out and about and to meet unique people. I love bumping into folks and just chatting away, and it's kind of being lost.
Well, I don't know how women's clothes are, but I presume it's about the same. Guys, they've got nothing but slaves making these things anyway, and the poor guys are trapped in some little rooms. There's got to be some variance on quality because, like some things, for example, I'll wear an extra large, some wear a large, in shirts or coats and stuff, mostly large, extra large. But what I'm saying is it varies, and pants all fit differently. I mean, I was figuring, just for clothes, I wouldn't want to, unless it was something you just knew 100%, how they'd fit. But even
the issue we're facing, Heidi and Kevin, I think is not so much that we aren't adapting as customers to different levels of shopping, and when we find something convenient and we don't have to leave our homes and it's a commodity item. Like if you ordered, say, a book, why do you have to go and you know exactly what the new John Grisham book or whatever, you know exactly what it is, and you still want a real book, you don't want it on Kindle. So you're totally happy to have it be delivered to your house, no matter if you're old school from 2 centuries ago or you're just a young kid just going through high school and middle school. But when it comes to really the things that you need to pick out and you need to make decisions. So, for example, if you're remodeling a house and you need to pick tile, you can look at all the pictures on Pinterest or whatever of all the different tiles, but you really want to go to the tile store and say, oh, is that wood or is that a ceramic? And how's it going to be on my cold feet? And you want a person to wait on you. So what we are doing, the question pending is, are we losing retailing? And 1,000% no. But is retailing changing and is shopping changing? 1,000% yes. There's pendulums. And I know we will still go to the 7-Eleven or Circle K or whatever your convenience store is near your gas station for that 11:30 at night 6-pack of beer because you ran out, or you need that, if you are a smoker, you need that pack of cigarette, whatever it is. And I don't think we're going to have drones delivering packs of cigarettes at 11:30 at night. I think you're still going to have.
Hey, they're working on that though.
Well, it's going to fail, but it's going to fail because drones are going to crash into each other, and then you have explosions and
people.
And people, and it's fun to have a toy. But it's I don't believe it'll ever happen. I
think they need to reveal their secret technology of having a Star Trek transporter, and then we're talking.
Well, Brooks Agnew, he was a guest we had on some months back. He owns a electrical truck manufacturer in North Carolina. He said that all this sass about the self-driving cars, that's not going to happen with trucks. It's not going to happen.
Right, and I concur with that 100% because we still have a human element, and until you can turn us into robots, and that's not going to happen this week anyway, until we're robots, you can't have all the discretionary technology that we have that requires human decision, still requires human beings. Sully used human knowledge to land an airplane on the Hudson River. He did not use a computer to land that airplane. Right. So, please go ahead. But I think there are, again, different perspectives on what's happening to retailing. And I'm happy to address, your concerns, Kevin, what you might have, or Heidi, if. Let's look into it.
The sad thing that I run into here in Chicago, I mean, Chicago's known for the Magnificent Mile. That is a huge tourist attraction. It is shopping till you drop. I don't care how freezing it is outside. I mean, they are out there just digging it. And
how to interrupt, Heidi, but we're getting close to the bottom of the break. Okay.
Oh, that's fine. Sorry. Yeah. Well, no, and just to say that some of these smaller shops are closing up. It's really sad to see. So,
Well, I know you wouldn't think they would, but I mean, like I say, we're just about ready to the break. But I guess that's the thing we might talk about too when we get back. I mean, I have heard that it's very possible. I know Sears is not the most financially robust company out there these days, but guys, they're probably going to close this year or by the first of next year, maybe. So,
well, it could happen. It could happen. I'll reserve some thoughtful comments when the break is over.
We'll
be right here.
We'll be right back. Well, it's good to be back with Harvey and Heidi. And I don't know. I took a little longer getting back. This dog's a little more problem than the veteran radio dog. But, she doesn't want me to be out of her sight, I guess is what it is.
Well, just to recap a little bit, I was making the point about, like the Magnificent Mile, that's a big tourist attraction. And, some of these smaller mom and pop places are even closing down. And I hear the sob stories from the owners. And, I mean, what are we to do if places if shopping is not a thing? I mean, Fifth Avenue, it's not a thing. What's to happen?
Well, I would think the phenomenon of small neighborhood, whether they be clothing stores or retail stores, hardware stores, whatever, that phenomenon was challenged and at risk with the growth of the big box Target, Costco, Walmart, Home Depot. That was already at risk. I don't think the Amazon phenomenon is the challenge of the small, is not the only challenge to the small retail store, because part of the formula or model of at least the book sales for years was Amazon, during the history of Amazon. They would have contracts with almost every small bookstore that if there was a rare publication that online was sought by a customer online, then it was sent from, there was a contract with that small bookstore that had certain kinds of titles, whether it was a science store, whether it was a religious bookstore, whether, all these. So Amazon is the risk based on 6-8 weeks ago, back in June, maybe it was 3 months ago. The risk was to the other big box stores. If Amazon buys or merges with Whole Foods, does that put Target out of business? And that's where the story is in terms of Amazon. And now you have a story of a Walmart teaming up with a Google or proposing to so that they can compete with Amazon. I'm gonna. You do know, Kevin, over the years that I'm a recovering attorney, and I taught law school for 15 years. And
Joe's an attorney.
Joe, yeah, he's one of you. He's not recovered yet.
No, I've totally recovered.
And, I came very close. I came very close to going to James Madison Law School in Atlanta many years ago.
Oh, very good, very good. So the point is. The point is that for I actually forgot my point about the. Oh no, I know what it is. Yeah. One of the major when you study constitutional law, one of the major sections right around 1900 through the 1920s was the Sherman Antitrust Act.
Oh yes,
to combat in those days Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan and all the big they had monopolies on their industries, and so if Amazon becomes too big, it would occur to me, whether it's in this administration or some future administration, they will face the Justice Department bringing, antitrust actions. So there needs to be competent. Yeah, so there is protection at a constitutional level or at a congressional, well-settled level that people should know no single corporation should. There's one, should dominate. And I'm going to give you an irony. I don't mean to hog the time. There's an irony. About 10 years ago, there was going to be a merger between Staples and Office Depot. And
same store already, anyways.
And the Justice Department fought it on grounds of antitrust and monopoly. If they merged, there would not be competition. And guess what? Recent articles, they're both going out of business. They're both not going out of business. No, they are both closing stores. Both Staples and Office Depot are closing stores. Google it. It's
terrible.
Out there.
Wow,
So,
I did not know that. I did not know that.
What an irony, because the Justice Department did not want them to dominate the office supply industry, and now.
Well, now there did, in fairness, there used to be a zillion little small office supply places.
Oh yeah, they were sometimes combined with maybe bookstores or writing stores or little office supply places, and they would be double as bookstores as well, and very convenient. La Jolla has a famous store in La Jolla, California. You mentioned La Jolla earlier. Warwick's bookstores just fit that prototype perfectly for literally 60, 70 years. And I think they've closed. I think the Warwick's has closed. I'm not sure.
Goodness. Another thing that really bothers me, it's like with the closing of all the bookstores. It's like, and me being an author, and it's like people do not know what to shop for unless they're looking for something in particular. It's like, it's not like when you go out into the bookstore and you see all these books facing you. You're able to pick through and go, and discover something. When you go online, you have to know what you're looking for. You have to just do a search, and you don't get exposed to everything, so you won't see the competition. You know Apple, you know IBM, you go for certain things, and it's like, there's another brand out there. Well, how would you know? I mean, really, it's crazy, and everybody's DVRing their shows so they could fast forward through commercials. I do it all the time, so they wouldn't see the advertisement to know there's a new brand of computer out there or something. So it's really narrowing our choices, and it's a detriment. I mean, is that what you're finding too?
Well, I agree with you completely. It's narrowing, not so much the choices. There's still a variety of every kind of product, and just look for lighting when you remodel. I use that example. If you lighting fixtures, there's zillions of them, but they are narrowing, Heidi, the places you can look for those choices. That's what they're narrowing, and that's what we're unhappy about. That one I just heard, Toys R Us is talking about filing bankruptcy.
Yes.
I just heard that one. We talk about narrowing choices. You take a kid to Toys R Us, and it's It's Disneyland, Disney World.
Where you don't have to grow up.
And you don't have to grow up as long as you have a credit card.
That's right. Jeez. That hurt me to hear that.
Well, another thought is on another issue. By the way, do you want to stay on a few more minutes so you don't have to cut off at 8:45 if you don't want? Or,
no, I'm here with you until Joe tells me go home.
Cool.
Well,
as
what
the
I'm
sweat
thinking,
dries
guys,
from tennis. I love it. It's awesome.
Well, see, on another issue, though, I know that what the heck are people going to do for employment with the mechanization of factories and moving into Mexico, which they're fond of doing, and then retail would be removed to a large extent. That's a big part of the workforce. I mean, what are these guys going to do for work?
Well, I think there are a lot of services that still need refining that are outside, shall we say, just working retail or working in a restaurant or working in a gas station, and retraining people, and the creation of new industries, of which I really can't tell you. But I do believe there are new electronic style industries. If, say, there's more that we learn about wireless this and wireless that and digital this and digital that, of which I'm not a scientist, so I can't tell you. But we know that our universities are filled with research, both private universities and state public universities, and those will create American jobs, in my opinion. Everybody talks about big government, but I think what we're, again, like, remember that American flag analogy I gave? They're really criticizing the president. They're really not criticizing the flag. Well, well, likewise, people are complaining about big government, but do you know in the Federalist Papers, Alexander Hamilton and James Madison, they were already complaining about big government at the time of the Revolution, at the time of the Constitutional Convention. So that's not a new argument.
That's a little premature.
People are complaining about over-regulation and too many laws, and we get that, and we can agree with that. But it is the government that will provide enhanced health care one day. We're going to get over this argument we're having because we are dedicated to have good health care, and there is room in the healthcare industry to give better quality preventive care and train people in their accidents. People drive at 80 miles an hour and crash into each other, and we need paramedics, and we have diseases, and we have cancers. That alone is a broad industry that's, I'm not saying it's untapped, but we need more providers and not just physicians, not just the doctors at every level. We need more mental health care. So what I'm offering to you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm offering that we will have new industries. When we talk about America being great and resilient, I promise you we can find jobs for people. They just have to stand up and say they want to work. That's what people have to do.
Well, I hope that turns to be the case. I hope it does. I grew up, not that long. Well, I mean, quite a while ago, yes. But I mean, it was when there was a lot of factories, so that a guy didn't have to be, rip snorting genius to make a decent living and go about his business and raise families. The Archie Bunker kind of thing. Sure. But I mean, I was always a salesman or something like that, sort of shifty, conniving salesman type. But it had a certain skill to it. But what I'm saying is that I feel for the average working Joe is what I'm saying. Right. And I don't know if there aren't those kind of high-paying jobs available anymore for the most part, or at least. Well, when you read statistics, both under the prior administration, the prior president, since 2008, or since, say, 2013, 2014, and then even under the current new administration, job growth is continuing across this country. There is. Yes, but wages have been flat. Wages have been flat. Well, there's so many parts of the argument. I'm not knowledgeable about wages. I'm aware of big arguments about minimum wage and all that sort of thing. Yeah. But if wages stay flat, that also means inflation stays flat. Well, I raised my children with a two worker household. My spouse and I both had teaching jobs, and we raised our children, and we were very pleased with that. But this country will continue probably with two working spouses or two working parents. And I don't want to address whether people have children with the benefit of marriage or without the benefit of marriage. That's a personal thing. But I'm saying that if there are two parents, whether they're married to each other or not, but if you have two working parents and then you have two incomes, that makes up for a lot of the fact that the incomes might not be as high as you'd like. Yeah, I understand.
I have a question for you since you mentioned wages. Did you, and then you mentioned Target may be going out of business. Did you hear about their announcement 2 days ago about raising their minimum hourly wage to $11 and then by the end of 2020 to $15? What do you think about that?
Now, if you're asking me, I thought it was Staples and Office Depot. I don't recall saying Target was going out of business.
Yep, I'm looking at it. Oh, I thought you said Target as well. Sorry. Right.
No. I think Target is a very viable retailer, and it is not as aggressive as Walmart in trying to combat the Amazon onslaught, but I do believe people who are blue-collar people and middle-class people, they populate Target, at least in my community, quite dramatically, and Target gives jobs. A lot of people, there are a lot of employment at Target with fewer complaints than the Walmart employment scenario of 2 and 3 years ago. So I hope I didn't say Target was. I have no knowledge. I have no knowledge.
Well, no, actually, I talked to the Walmart people up here because I frequent Walmart a lot because I just like it, and
right,
they've got cheap oatmeal. Well, I'm a vegetarian.
That's not the oatmeal you feed your dog, is it? That's not the.
No.
There's a question from the chat room I wanted to ask you. Said hearsay is in there and asks, are we ever going to see a rebirth of the mom and pop stores? Do you think that Middle America or something might ever see that, or small town people?
Yeah, it does exist in a different form, and it started about 30 years ago with McDonald's. The mom and pop store is in the form of the small franchise, a Subway store. I can't think of those Mike's Burgers. Those are very mom and pop oriented. In fact, they reject you.
Five Guys? Or is that a pizza?
No, Five Guys burgers. Yeah, Five Guys.
Burgers.
Yeah. So that's one form of it's not going to go anyway soon. There are certain convenience stores that are operated heavily by minority families. And I do not say this I'm just saying that the families will get together and you go into a 7-Eleven and it might be a Hispanic family, it might be an Indian family, it might be, they're Americans, they're paying their taxes, but they group together and then they'll run these smaller stores.
Subway shops and Dunkin' Donuts as well. You see a pattern. Yeah.
Yeah. So I say that with a pat on the back and a thumbs up that we do have diversity in our country, and I want to endorse that because I myself, if you go back not that many generations, my dad was born in the United States, but and now my children are fifth, because through their mother are fifth generation San Diegans, believe it or not.
Wow.
But my point is, if we don't have diversity, then we lose some of the principles of our country. And that what used to be maybe a small diner in a Midwest town, that is today a 7-Eleven convenience store, it's still the same concept that it's grassroots. Is it shifting? Is there a pendulum? Is it less than it was? Yes. Is it in danger? Yes. Is it going away and lost forever? Negative. It exists in a little different form. And I think the franchise, especially the food franchises, but you see dry cleaner franchises. You see what are those franchises for your car, for your transmission franchises? Yeah. So that's my answer. It's at risk. Everything's at risk when things change, but the pendulum will swing, and they aren't going to go away. They aren't going to go away.
Well, I guess I had empathy for the people that just are not that bright and didn't get that much education.
Right.
But, that doesn't include myself. I'm pretty well educated, but I'm talking about, I had some sympathy for the poor schmuck that just gets through high school and doesn't have many prospects. But I don't know, but still, the idea of, I guess, groceries too. I know people next door, they call in their order to Walmart and they go pick it up, and I don't know. I like looking around the aisle, see if there's another kind of soup or produce looks good or something like that. Is it just people are that lazy? Walmart's certainly well situated in almost every town. You don't have to drive very far to find one, or Target either. Are people just lazy types these days? Is that it?
I don't think people do have a mentality more than they did 20 years ago. If I can get it delivered, I will. And that feeds into the Amazon and then every other form of, including Domino's Pizza is based almost exclusively on delivery. I just saw in my neighborhood that, or maybe it was a TV, I was watching a football game or something on TV, Domino's has decided to open up some actual restaurants where you can come and eat your pizza at it. Yeah, I just saw it's a prototype, I guess.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
So, but delivery of certain things, I don't see how an Amazon really is going to wrap itself around delivering hot, fresh food. Now, they could deliver, they could deliver packages of cereal and all that. Whole Foods, they buy the Whole Foods and they deliver that sort of staples kind of thing that goes in the pantry. But if you want, I don't know, fresh tacos, fresh burgers, I think you're going to rely on the franchises, in your neighborhood, whether it be a Taco Bell or do you guys have In-N-Out Burger? That's an outstanding.
Yeah, there is that.
Yeah.
That is nonstop.
Well, and now Uber is starting to take part in delivering.
Well, how could they do that cost effectively? Uber's going to cost, $15 at least to deliver the food, wouldn't it?
Well, why when it takes you $5 to go from point A to point B? So probably might be pretty cool, especially like a place like here in Chicago. I mean, you don't want to go out in the traffic,
There's a competitor to Uber too, and I can't think of it. No, but not that. I meant on delivering food. It's something something with the word eats. One of the restaurants that has both Uber delivery and this other. There are now
doing it too. I think something. Yeah, they're using some service.
Right. So now that, but that is a service that is. You talk about small business. A lot of criticism to Uber. And maybe not quite as much to Lyft, but they're helping people go to college. People who have classes, and if they have night classes and they want to drive during the day, or they have day classes and want to drive at night, it may be exhausting, but they can actually get themselves through college the way some of us maybe were busboys or something like that on the weekends, when earning our way through, that side job to earn the spending money at college. Mom and dad said, okay, we'll pay the tuition and we'll pay the rent, the room and board. But if you want, you've got to work. If you want to have buy yourself clothes, or if you want to have your own car at school, you got to earn money in the summertime and pay for your own car. So that still exists to this day. There are, when you ask me about jobs out there, there's a new footprint for the taxi. And I now know. Go ahead.
I don't mean to. I know you're an attorney and all that, but I've heard that there's only 50% job openings for the recent law school graduates. I've heard that.
In Southern California, San Diego in particular, when I graduated law school and became an attorney in 1970, jobs were short then for attorneys. The state of California has well over 50,000 attorneys. My daughter's an attorney. She's a good lawyer and has a very fine job, and I'm very proud of her. But I finally
tough too.
It's always been tough finding good attorney jobs. There have been more attorneys not practicing law than practicing law that have gotten Juris Doctor degrees.
My sister got to be a judge, a federal judge's law clerk. That was pretty hard to do, wasn't it?
Yes, you had to have pretty good grades, have to be near the top of your class, and then that is an entree. When that tenure is finished as a clerk of the federal judge, then doors will open at some of the better firms in that community who may very well even know the judge personally, but they'll know the reputation of the federal bench.
She's doing well. She's doing well now. She has a big personal injury practice in Los Angeles. And She makes money like water, as I understand it.
Yeah, that's a great place to have a personal injury practice. The city of Los Angeles.
Chase those ambulances.
Well, so third runner-up, Miss Maryland, that probably helped her too.
Right. Okay.
It's probably good knowing
let's not get into the beauty contest thing. I will stumble and fail on that discussion. So.
Well, I've really enjoyed having you, Harvey. I really have. And are there any books I want to push or we need to mention? Or?
Well, my existing book is called Customize Wall Street. It's been out for a couple of years now, and it's in one sentence, it's a guidebook for professionals can read it or individual investors. It's in Customizing Wall Street, how to make investments and save for your future goals like retirement without stress and worry, or at least reducing the stress and worry. Too much media, too much hype about, the market is down and everybody runs scared, and that is absolutely ridiculous. If prices go down in gasoline, you fill up your tank right away because now the gas is cheaper, and there's no reason not to buy more of your favorite mutual fund, your annuity, the stocks you like, when the markets are down, and that props up the market. Buying at a discount helps prop up and keep the market steady.
I need a copy of your book. Kevin must have got one, and I just didn't get one. Darn.
I will make sure my publicist. Do I have your?
I'll send it.
If you
cool.
If you are in touch with Antoinette, Kevin, make sure kindly
Yes.
my suggestion that
I'll make sure it gets
Cool.
there. Well, listen,
Yeah,
we better
sounds
go to
good.
the top of the hour break, but it's been great having you, Harvey.
Yes, thank you.
And you guys have a great week, and thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah, thanks. It's awesome.
Well, it's good to be back with Heidi, and that was pretty interesting stuff. We don't usually deal in prosaic issues. I thought that was pretty good.
Oh, I loved him. He was awesome.
He's a good. Well,
I'm looking forward to getting his book. I'm like, what? I want to see what's going on. What's this book about? This is a really fascinating topic.
I'll give you Antoinette's number, and I'll text that to you, and she'll make sure she gets you a copy of the book.
Oh, that is so cool. I will dig into that.
Oh, sure. But I had an interesting story I want to relate to you. This was on the supernatural, if you will, right? Now, it wasn't like ghosts hanging around smoking cigarettes in the back of the car or anything. But I go to the doctor like once a year, just for a checkup. I don't need anything. But, I was going to go to my appointment this morning and went down there. And on the way down, I had a note for no reason. I had a notion the doctor's not going to be there when I got there. And that was a funny notion because I thought, well, always has been there. And anyhow, to make a long story short, I'd got there and the doctor had an emergency and was not there. The chances of that happening are about like, a pigeon flying, through the car and waving his feathers as he goes. I mean, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. If meteor striking the truck or something, it's not going to happen. And that's Heidi. That's exactly what happened.
Wow.
And I kind of, the idea just floated in the top of my thinking process. So I kind of dismissed it, like, yeah, what are the chances of that? Sure enough, I get there, no dice. And it's no big deal. Just get another appointment. But I mean, it's just. Mm-hmm. But it was one of the strongest ones I've had in a long time.
Wow, that's pretty wild. Jeez.
Yeah, did I tell you about the one that got away? We're talking about financial issues. It was in Vegas, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. 2009. I ought to listen to my hunches. 2009. I think, well, I ought to put $100 on the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. Because, the Golden Gate's got a sports book. You can just bet in there. Right? Mm-hmm. No, not the Golden Gate, the Golden Nugget, I mean. And, the idea, I tossed it right, I wasted your money. But I had a strong impulse to do it. Do you know what they paid?
What's that?
$500,000 to 1.
No.
That bet would have been worth 5 million smackers.
Wow. That's wild.
So,
that's smacker for sure.
Oh man, can you imagine even after taxes, you walked out. The taxes aren't that much on gambling winnings, by the way. You still walk out with over $4 million.
Hey, I've got a story for you. You know, recently a lady, she won the lottery after playing the same numbers for over, I think, 30 years or something.
Really?
And I knew a guy, and my friend's family did that. They won the lottery. They played the same numbers for years. They never missed playing the numbers.
Really?
One of my good friend's father, he was doing that. I believe he was on like year 5 or something like that, playing the same numbers. And then they went on vacation, and he didn't get a chance to play his numbers, and his numbers came up. His numbers came up. They said they never seen him like sob and bawl, and he just for months he just was so. Do you know? It's like, wow, and he just stopped playing the lottery after that. He was just crushed.
Well, that's how I felt.
Crazy.
That's how I felt after Tampa Bay things, because I mean, $100 would been no big deal, lost it.
Yeah.
But I mean, the $5 million would have been a big deal. But there was a man, I read about him recently. He won the lottery, and his wife did as well. Now, what are the chances of a husband and wife combo winning? My God.
Yeah, that's true. Or people that have struck more than once. That's even stranger. It's like, I think I saw a story where somebody did. That. Yeah, like 3 times or something. And I was watching I want to say it was a reality show of some sort of people who had won millions from a lottery and how they were living their lives. And there was a lady who, as far as back as people knew her, she always would tell them, I know I'm going to win the lottery. Like as a teenager, she's like, she said she had a dream or something that told her she was going to win. And she told people this. And I think she struck it at like age 25 or something. And I think she won more than once. And it was just like, and everybody's like, no, she always said very matter of fact, well, I'm going to win the lottery, and just like, not a joke.
Just like it was sure.
Yeah, she was very sure she was going to, and boom, she hit big. It's like, wow. So pretty fascinating.
Well, it's a good way to go if you can do it. It's a good way to go if you can do it. But I over the years, should have listened to my hunches, but I have not. And I guess that's proven to be a major degree of stupidity. But there isn't. But the thing that was kind of strange, and even though I'm used to things like that, that kind of struck me odd because there's no reason to think the doctor wouldn't be there. None. I mean, I've been going there 10 years, thereabouts.
Yeah.
So 10 or 11 years. And also, you would think if some emergency happened, the crazy office would call you and tell your appointment's been canceled, something.
Right.
They've got my phone number. But at any rate, it was just odd, but it did happen.
Yeah,
and those things. And, I never told you about this, but on that same kind of vein, this is 1,000,000 years ago. I was going to Oglethorpe University in Atlanta, and it's a night school, right? And we had some professor that was like, I thought it was going to be general psychology, but with him it was like parapsychology 101 or something, right? And he even set us up with appointments to a medium that, we could talk to and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And here's what happened is it was like all of a sudden exposure to that. I actually prayed for it to go away, and it did. But you remember that there's an ancient Stephen King movie, not The Shining, but it was with John Voight. And what had happened is basically John Voight's figure would, say stumble into somebody on the street corner and accidentally touch him on the shoulder, and he'd realize that. I don't remember the movie. Joe probably knows. But
yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
Still probably know. But anyhow, what happened? But what happened was I started knowing that kind of stuff just out of the clear blue sky. Like I had an office warehouse job where I'd mostly just man the phone. I'd ship the orders out of the little office in Atlanta. Good job for a college student because you could work you could do some paperwork periodically while in dead times. And what I'm saying, though, is I would know who would call. I would know it would be the North Carolina Rubber Company calling, and I'd know what they wanted. I mean, not every detail, but I'd know who would be calling. I'd know when my wife would be calling.
Was it the Dead Zone?
The Dead Zone. That's exactly right. John Voight sure was.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was like this was getting more and more and more, having more and more momentum. And I actually prayed about, look, God, I can't handle knowing all this. And that's exactly what happened. But I don't know whatever it awakened, it did it in me.
Wow. I mean, wild. I think there's more and more people that are starting to experience these types of things. I think it's awesome.
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know. I have to not deal in occultism because I have before and it's burned me a whole lot. But what I'm saying is the one thing I will say about this guy that was the medium, his name was Paul Neary. Mm-hmm. Even back then, it was kind of pricey because this professor set us up with appointments. It was like $35. Hell, that was a long time ago. $35, but I paid it. But yeah. He knew, but he asked. Oh, it was kind of funny because I wasn't comfortable with that stuff. And he said, "Do you want me to go in a trance?" I said, "No, none of that. I don't need none of that." But what I'm saying is, he told me about things that were going to happen, and he told me, for example, I would be married a couple times, and at the time I would have never thought I'd ever be divorced from Susan. And he told me there was going to be a series of one-term presidents, which happened.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, I mean, this guy said all kinds of stuff. And I mean, this is way back in '73, understand?
Yeah.
And I mean, this guy knew stuff like, I mean, he was the real deal, whatever, for his credibility's sake. But there was another girl I met way later in life named Kathy.
Yeah.
He mentioned going to be a girl named Chrissy or Kat. That's who's going to be the love interest in your life. And I mean, this was like 20 years before this woman showed up. Well, not 20 years, 15 years. 15. Yeah, so, I mean, those abilities are out there, but it says not to mess with it in the Bible, you know? I mean,
yeah. I mean, because I've spoken at different conferences and whatnot, and I've always had people that would just pop up and say stuff to me, like, and some of it was super spot on. That was really kind of freaky. But I think the coolest one, I was literally at a strawberry fest here, just outside of Chicago here. Yeah, and there's this little Irish pub, and this lady had a little table sitting outside the Irish pub, and it's like, read your palm or your cards.
Oh, yeah.
And I was with a friend, and she's Irish, and she was going to head into the pub with me, and she's like, oh, hold on, an Irish lady's doing reading. Let's do it. I'm like, okay, and this is crazy. The lady looks at my hand, and she's just like, okay, I see your lifeline. And she goes, oh, you're gonna have a holy encounter. You're gonna see Jesus. Really? You already saw Jesus. I was like,
are you serious?
I just froze. She just did that. She said, you're gonna write books. You already wrote books. It was crazy.
That is pretty good.
It was wild.
That is pretty good.
And then you know what I did, Kevin? So like 2 years passed, me and my same friend, we go out there, and I'm like, there's no way that this lady would recognize me. I'm like, I'm going to have her read my cards. Do you know she did the same thing?
All came to the same conclusion. Oh, really?
Yes, it was a little different how she came about it, and we're just like, she's legit. It was really.
Oh, well, I mean, nobody's going to say that unless it's. Oh, well, actually, it's funny you mentioned that because actually, Sue, and I did go like to a woman named Madam Stanley in the Eastern Shore of Maryland or something like that at the time. She did, and she said some accurate stuff.
No,
not as definitive as what you indicated, but something. And
I felt exposed. That wasn't the only thing she told me. It was crazy accurate.
Well, it was crazy accurate. But of course, that Frank Sinatra experience I had a couple of years ago was kind of like that because there was stuff that just happened, man. It just happened.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Heidi. There is a lot more. I guess what it is, partially. I mean, this doesn't explain everything. But partially, Einstein always said that there's no past, present, and future. It's all one continuum. And I guess maybe these people have some way to tap into it. I don't know. They obviously do.
Yeah, they've got something.
But I mean, how in the heck would I know that the crazy doctor wouldn't be there at the office? I mean, that's just...
Yeah, that's weird.
That was weird. That was. But I don't know, Heidi. It is a lot stranger life than any... what Ripley's Believe It or Not, the life is stranger than you think, or whatever their saying was. I forget. It's been so long, but...
Oh, yeah.
It's... Oh, truth is stranger than fiction. That's it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's one of them. And I would never, ever... I wish, like I said, I could kick myself for not putting the 100 smackers down there at the Golden Nugget. I would have, made my retirement years pretty comfortable, $5 million. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, listen, let's go to break, and we'll have that break, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Well, it's great to be back with Heidi. And, I wanted to reserve a few minutes to talk about what the heck we're going to do about Korea and Trumpy, and, well, not Trumpy so much, but Korea. What can we do besides bomb this little weasel?
Well, I don't think we're going to be able to solve it, but I think he could use some Prozac and some sleeping medication to sleep off his anxiety, because he feels and tells his people that we are the ones trying to invade his country constantly. So he's a little bit paranoid, and I think this is the way he saves face to keep the paranoia that his forefathers had. I mean, there's nothing you could do about a dictatorship, but this is what I don't understand. It's like he has the power he has because people are listening to him. They could overthrow that little weasel easily, but they just don't. I don't understand that.
I don't understand that. Is it some kind of deification of or something? Or?
Well, yeah, they do believe that about his family, and that's why he was chosen, because he looks more closely related to the grandfather. So they chose him because he put on the weight and he cut his hair the same way. They think he's almost like reincarnated. So they do kind of worship them. It's really, really sad, but they're starving to death. Their families are split. They're being beaten and put in prisons. It's just sick.
Oh, everything bad about it. I mean, it's a sick, cruel bunch. But I was just wondering, but what I'm saying, and of course you don't have all the number on it, and I don't either.
Yeah.
But do you really think the Chinese would do anything if we just laid? That's what we're really worried about, I'm sure.
What was that? I didn't hear you.
Do you think the Chinese would come to this bozo's aid and assistance if we?
Well, that's how he's surviving the whole time. I mean, everybody, blockaded this guy, and where is he getting all the equipment and tools? It's Russia and freaking China. It's just ridiculous. Yeah. It's like, why do they like to instigate things? And you know what? One thing I wanted to bring up with Cuba and our embassy over there, and them being attacked, like on the down low with some kind of
microwave radiation.
Microwave, something. They all have headaches. They all have hearing loss. Yeah. They all have balance loss. And they think it's Russian technology. Yeah, and Russian technology.
Well, it wouldn't be Russian technology.
They said they think it's Russian technology. It's like,
but why would the KGB want to do that? Why they wouldn't have any? I mean, I'm not saying they're above it, but I'm just saying that to what end? I mean,
crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, I feel terrible for those people. That was an attack. That was a terrorist attack on our workers. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that they got him out of there, but they should have got him out quicker. But
they didn't talk about it that much.
They sure didn't, because it looks awful. Like they couldn't detect where it was coming from and for how long. I mean, their lives are forever changed. I mean, talk about
I'm not
the Benghazi attacks.
I'm not saying it's for certain, but I doubt the Cubans are pretty primitive. I wouldn't see where the Cubans would have the technology to do it. These guys are running around in 57 Chevys and stuff.
Well, they've kept their dictatorship because of Russia supplying that, so that's just crazy.
But I mean, if Cuba's also in a relatively peaceful format with the U.S., they know that as soon as Raul bites the dust, there'll be casinos galore and Marriott's chomping at the bit, and they've opened up visitation and tour.
No, Trump reversed all of that. Trump reversed all of that. Yeah, he did. He's quite the butthead. And that's I think that's why they got attacked. I mean,
are you sure of that? Because I mean,
I will Google it now, because the last that I heard that he reversed the tourism and being open to go over there. Yeah, but the embassy was sitting there and the people were being attacked. I don't get it. I'm checking again.
Was that their way of retaliating, you think, or something like that?
I think so. Reverses Obama, Cuba. It comes right up. Trump reverses Obama, Cuba. Let's see here.
Yeah.
Oh, pieces of it. Yeah, he reverses pieces of the Obama era engagement with Cuba. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that was done in retaliation.
Well, because the reason I was skeptical is because I know this one colonel buddy of mine I see every now and then buddy up with. He and his wife went to Cuba on a trip, and it was something he always wanted to do, and it wasn't something they could have done in past years.
Okay, this is a quote. Effective immediately, I'm canceling the last administration's completely one-sided deal with Cuba. That's Trump's quote from the New York Times. Yeah, he's, here we take big step forward, and he just slaps it backwards. I don't know.
I don't look a lot of sense because the Cubans as a group are probably chomping at the bit to get rid of Raul and have money come in there and make it into another Miami or something like that. See, actually, I don't know whether you're familiar with Cuba's history, but at one time it was like the Las Vegas of the Caribbean.
Yes, I did hear that.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, even
that was the place to go.
Used to go down there. My parents used to go down there and all that, and it was something. And the mob and everything was running around down there, and they're making booze, and it's just a fun place, man. But
I was looking forward to the possibility to go there because it is so unique. I've had some good friends go over there.
My buddy, the colonel, he just did go there with he and his wife, and that's only been a couple months. So you still can go.
Trump did this June 16th. He reversed everything.
Oh, really?
According to this. So, yeah, the travel. That was the one thing I heard is that travel was taken away and all. What's the point?
This guy went just before. It is possible this guy went just before he reversed it.
Yeah.
Because it was sometime earlier in the summer, and I didn't have it written down on the calendar because it's not like it's that big a deal. But I know he did go, and he was really impressed with it. It's a picturesque kind of place. Cuba is pretty. It really is.
Oh yeah.
People don't realize how long and wide it is. Too. I think it's like 800 miles across or something.
Yeah. Quite unique. Yeah.
Well, it is, but I don't know. But, it is odd, though, because I'm wondering, I can't see the Cuban, to be candid with you, I know microwave radiation isn't the most sophisticated of tools, but these Cubans are more running around with walkie-talkie kind of people. I'm not even sure there's cell phone service in Cuba.
It's sad. I mean, those people that's a terrorist attack, and I don't think they got them out fast enough. But just like a Benghazi,
they did.
Yeah, they're permanently injured.
I don't know. But why would But I guess I'm not trying to stand up for the Russians, but why would they care? I mean, it's really out of the Russians' bailiwick.
Why would they buy those ads on Facebook? I don't know. They're just weird. They like to meddle.
I don't think that they would do that. I don't think that they would do that.
I don't know. Oh.
Well, actually, we were offered a position on RT at one time. Russia Today. Golly, just think of the scrutiny we'd have been under with that.
What? RT, Russian Today? What?
Russia Today. It's run by the Russian government, and we had a guest, Daniel Esterlin, at one time that was associated with him, and he was recommending me to the group to be on Russia Today, and.
Huh.
And through back channels, it was kind of offered to me that I could do that if I wanted to.
Interesting.
But, good Lord, I'd have the CIA crawling up my coffee cup in the morning or something.
I'm sure. Goodness, that's crazy.
Well, I'm loyal anyway. They'd figure that out, but still. But no, I do remember that, and I'm glad you said that because nobody has mentioned that.
Nope.
Just some things, and I wonder about that too. Because some things fall out of the news cycle without any follow-up, and you wonder why. Mm-hmm. And yet some things are continually dredged up and beat like with sticks every day, and you wonder why that is. Who the news directors, who's pulling their strings? I do wonder about that. I really do, and always have.
Yeah, one of the weirdest things, I had lived in Australia, and like the news was not stuck on a loop there. I come here, come back, and I'm like, gosh, it's the same thing rehashed every half hour. And I mentioned to somebody about that. I'm like, why don't they, speak about everything? And somebody literally said, well, maybe there's nothing else to report. Like nothing is new every half hour. I know.
There's always stuff to report.
So
even last night, I stayed up later than I usually do. And I was listening to Seth Meyers. And I left the room, and I came back about 10 minutes later. Seth Meyers was still banging on Trump. And I'm thinking, my God, has this idiot done it for 20 minutes straight? 20 minutes straight? I mean, my God, I went to go get something out of, something to drink or whatever. And, I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. Well, now, next week, we're going to have a great guest. We're going to have Tim Schwartz is going to be on. He has Conspiracy Journal, and he's got this 200 or 300 stringers out there with all kinds of, little stories, and we're going to have him on, and we'll have some new, fresh stuff, because he's into conspiracies and everything else. We'll ask him about it.
Should be good.
He did have a story just up your alley on that. He did have something about the embassy personnel.
So wow, cool.
We'll see what he has to say about it. How about your Friday show? What you got on that?
You know what? I'm going to be heading out of town, so I had to make a shift.
Oh, okay.
I'm enjoying my last bits of summerish weather. It's all good, though.
Well, I'm glad the summer's over, and I'm looking forward to 30s, which is going to be in Albany, New York this week.
Oh, we're supposed to be dropping down into the 50s, so fingers crossed.
We better say goodnight to these folks, and we'll see you next week.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.